Umbral Eyes inside of Lords of the Fallen help upgrade your character with additional sockets inside of your Umbral lamp to give you certain abilities depending on what you put into your Umbral lamp in a nutshell. I'm going to quickly show you where you can find every single one of these Umbral Eyes in the game. Let's get into it. To start this list off, I'm going to start with Marco the Axis Umbral Eye because it's going to be the easiest one, in theory, for you to get as early as possible because you have to go into the Umbral Realm and fight off one of these Crimson Specters to actually get the eye. Now, if you defeat them for the first time, you'll actually get it. You'll only be able to find them when you're in the Umbral Realm, and you see on the right side, you have the 3 eyes. You will absolutely see this guy coming after you once you get to the certain level and the eye turns red. All you have to do is defeat this guy and you will be able to unlock this particular Umbral Eye, which is definitely easier said than done. I recommend trying to find a place where other enemies in the Umbral Realm don't spawn. That way you can face him off one-on-one and eventually defeat him. And this Umbral Eye is not a bad one to get either. You go into a curse form when you put this into the main socket of your Umbral lamp, aka when you go into the Umbral Realm, things are going to be scared of you, at least some of the lower level stuff. So it's a cool one to pick up and definitely one you should grab as soon as you possibly can. Moving right along to one of the ones that you'll find very early on is going to be Betrayed Eliard's Umbral Eye, and you can find it right next to the windmill as soon as you start the game and find the vestige of Marco the Axe. Simply follow the pathing I'm showing you here, but you will of course have to be in the Umbral Realm for this, as you will be for all of these eyes. Now take the pathing I'm showing you, since it's very easy to find at the beginning of the game, find this belly and you'll be able to pop it open and grab your first, probably very first Umbral Eye of the game. And as you would expect from one of the earlier game Umbral Eyes, it's not one of the best ones, but if you don't have anything socketed already, it's not a bad one to throw in either. But here are the stats if you want to pause the video and take a look at it a little bit more closely. Next, I'm going to be showing you the location of blind Agatha's Umbral Eye, which is actually going to be in the Abbey of the Hallowed Sisters. Now, I'm showing you the location that is easiest to start from because it's a very well-known location in this area. It's going to be the room where you have to step in and start fighting off one of the mini bosses in the game with the Iron Wayfarer. Just a little bit of a heads up there. You're going to want to follow the pathing I'm showing you here inside the Umbral Realm. It's a very small, very simple puzzle, but you're going to want to follow the pathing after you face off a bunch of the different guys that dive down from the ceiling and also a couple specters. You'll want to go around this tower with a couple exploding vessels on it as well. On the next rooftop, you'll find this belly that you could pop open. This is going to be your Umbral Eye of blind Agatha. This is one of the Umbral Eyes you'll want to put into a main socket if you use soul flaying a lot, especially when you're fighting with harder enemies. So definitely keep this in mind. It's not a terrible one to grab. Next Umbral Eye is going to be Umbral Eye of Rosamund, which is actually near the blind Agatha vestige point, also near the bell room teleportation, just to help you figure out what vestige I'm starting out from. This one, you're going to want to follow the path and go into the Umbral Realm as soon as you find this little puddle of water where the waterfall is. As soon as you jump into there, you'll come into a slightly open room with one of the butterfly ladies, and a belly is going to be right next to her that you can pop open to get this particular Umbral Eye. And as you can see for me, it's one of the earlier ones that I found when we were doing all these different recordings for this video. So it's definitely one that you can grab super early on, obviously because it's part of the Pilgrim's Perch ascent area. Next, we're traveling to the Forsaken Fen, particularly the second big bonfire that you come across, also in the village of all the different monsters in this area for the Pale Butcher Umbral Eye. Thankfully, right next to this massive bonfire is going to be a little alcove inside the water outside the Umbral Realm, which is going to be a little belly that you could pop open, kind of hidden, which is really no surprise for the Forsaken Fen, but this is one of the nicer Umbral Eyes in my opinion, mainly due to the gaining health and regaining soul flay over time, which is not something you normally come across in this game. Now, the Umbral Eye of Hooded Antuli is going to be found right after you defeat the Ruiner on the bridge that I'm standing on, and I'm already in the Umbral Realm because it makes it that much easier to show you, and probably one of the quicker routes that you can actually get to this location. You're going to come across a Spectre and a couple other very mini monsters inside the Umbral Realm while you're making your way over here. Simply go through the pathing I'm showing you with this very simple puzzle. Not a very hard one, but as soon as you get across the bridge, make your way to the right, and on the other side of this segment of the bridge, you'll find one of the bellies will pop open, which is where this Umbral Eye is going to be hidden. And just like you're starting to see with some of these other Umbral Eyes, they have unique individual things that you don't normally find throughout the game with other stuff, such as this one in the main socket. You are immune to damage for 8 seconds upon your transition into Umbral, which if you're like me, you've died a lot of times because of this transition. Next is the Umbral Eye of the Bloody Pilgrim, which can be found in Upper Calrath. Now I'm showing you from the main area that you fight 1, the Light Reaper, and 2, you come across the Ruiner and the dogs the first time you're in this area. I want you to follow the path that I'm showing you here. When you get to this junction where you can go right or left, once you go left towards the Hangman Tree, that you see an item hanging from one of the bodies. Next to one of these carts in the Umbral Realm, you'll actually find another vestige belly that you can pop open. This is going to be the Umbral Eye of the Bloody Pilgrim, which I'm currently using for a secondary slot effect, which you gain 15% of withered health upon striking enemy while in Umbral, which is super helpful inside the Umbral Realm, especially in boss fights. Food for thought. Now, the Umbral Eye of the Cursed Knight Iorelo, and I'm probably butchering his name, is not found until much later on in the game when you go into the Path of Devotion, and I'm going to show you from one of the vestige points that you have there, and the only vestige point. I'm backtracking because this is where you're actually going to find it, and you'll probably find it before you even get to this main area of the Path of Devotion. Simply make your way back onto Pilgrim's Perch segment of getting into the Path of Devotion. On the edge of the wooden platforms in the Umbral Realm, you will find this vestige belly that you can pop open to get this Umbral Eye. Now, for completion's sake, you want to grab this one. Personally, I don't find it very helpful, but you could be playing it very differently than me, and you could use it all the time. And also from the Path of Devotion, Vestige of Dieter location is where we're going to start going to get the Umbral Eye of Loash, which I think some think is probably one of the better Umbral Eyes. Now, you're going to come across a lot of higher level enemies because this area is a very difficult area, especially if you're not prepared. Nonetheless, make your way all the way down this pathing all the way until you get to the gate that you can go through to get back to Skyrest Bridge. One of these guys is going to be having an Umbral belly that you could pop open to get this particular eye, which is absolutely worth grabbing, especially for the main socket effect. While charging a heavy attack, all damage is received as weather damage and your pose cannot be broken, which again is absolutely massive against boss fights or just some of the harder mini bosses that you come across while playing this game. Moving right along to the Empyrean location to get the Umbral Eye of Doln. Now, this is going to be the Empyrean location, as I said a second ago, which is definitely a later game location, as this is where you're going to fight the priestess. But nonetheless, once you get to this location, ignore going through the main doorway and make your way to the right inside of the Umbral Realm, where you're going to find a sneakily hidden ladder, which is absolutely where you need to go, of course, because where else are you going to find an Umbral Eye? You're going to come across one of the butterfly ladies and a bunch of her minions there, bash your way past them, and at the very end of this hallway, you're going to find this little belly that you can pop open to get this particular Umbral Eye. Now, it has a very cool effect, I think, in the main socket with enemies in siphon range are temporarily slowed, which is super helpful if you're just trying to back away from an overwhelming situation. Again, just like all these Umbral Eyes, it's definitely worth picking up. Now, moving backwards a little bit to the Tower of Penance. I'm not going to go through the entire tower to show you this location, but when you get to the tower where you can unlock this shortcut, also at the same point where you come across this first kind of hexagonal location that has a whole bunch of enemies, in the Umbral Realm, you will find right next to the shortcut this vestige belly that you can pop open to get this particular Umbral Eye, the Umbral Eye of Olleren, which is great to compare with ones that you do a lot of soul flaying with because you can do increased damage to enemy souls in the secondary slot. So if you do soul flaying a lot, pick it up. Now, finding the Umbral Eye of Dieter is kind of a pain in the butt, if I'm being honest. I'm showing you from one of the locations after I unlocked one of the elevators inside of this location, so follow along as best as you possibly can. In this part of the desk where you can actually unlock the elevator that I just came down on, take care of all the enemies as they're going to be trying to attack you as you go after this Umbral Eye. Inside the Umbral Realm, you'll find this little point that you can take down with two enemies on top of it, and lower down, you're going to see a belly that you can pop open to get this particular Umbral Eye, which is a great Umbral Eye, especially if you're a blocking god, which I am definitely not, but it's definitely helpful once you get better at the game. Now, on to probably the biggest pain in the butt one to grab is the Lost Eye of Berescu. Now, it's going to be found inside of Upper Calrath's castle, which is a very difficult location in and of itself to go through because high level enemies and everything's trying to shoot you down from a distance. But follow the pathing that I'm showing you here because you're very much so going to miss it the first time around if you don't know where this is. The pathing that I'm showing you is going to lead you to this little pillar of onyx or whatever the black crystals are. Pop the belly as best you can without getting destroyed like I did. I had died so many times trying to do this. But once you do finally manage to get this Umbral Eye, it's very helpful, especially for mages, because you can regain mana upon siphoning an enemy, and your siphon radius goes up even higher, kind of compounding depending on what socket you're using. Now, the second and last Umbral Eye that I'll be covering on my entire list is going to be the Umbral Eye of Lydia the Numb Witch, which can be found inside of Brahma's castle right before you go and fight the main boss and the remembrance boss of this location of Brahma's castle. Follow the path that I'm showing you before you even go into the boss fight arena, which is at the top of the stairs. Go to the other side where you're going to see one of the butterfly ladies in the Umbral Realm and a vestige belly that you can pop open to get this particular Umbral Eye. Now, personally, an Umbral Eye that I don't use ever, but some others might use it, especially if you use ranged weapon and just try to heal a bit more efficiently inside of Umbral. But moving on to the final Umbral Eye. This Umbral Eye can only be attained after you get the Skyrest Bridge and go to the pathing that I'm showing you here, which is at the very bottom of the crypt area inside of Skyrest Bridge itself. And you also have to do the entire questline for Byron to complete his questline of Find the Thief. In my playthrough while recording, I did not get it done, so I'm showing you the location of where you will find him when you go through that entire questline. He's going to be right next to this Umbral door with another character that you interact with for the questline. Once you have completed this questline, he will actually give you this particular Umbral Eye, the Umbral Eye of Ethyrg. And I'm probably butchering the name. But it's an Umbral Eye that increases your item drop rate from killing enemies that much more, which is actually awesome, especially if you're someone like me that wants to try and get every single item in the game at least once. The questline itself is not hard to complete, it's just also very easy to fail, if that makes sense. I'll leave you guys on your own pace to go through the questline on your own. But that is how you can find every single one of the Umbral Eyes inside of Lords of the Fallen from 2023. I hope you guys found this helpful. It took a while to find every single one of these, and I wanted to try and make it as short and sweet as possible on every single one of the locations of these Umbral Eyes. So if you did find this helpful, I would appreciate you liking and subscribing. That way I know I did a good job around it. Leave a comment down below if I missed something particular about one of these eyes that you would like to share, and I will catch you guys in the next video.